Thank you so much for staying with us. I have John Zeev in the studio. I'm so glad that, John, you are back.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. So last time we had a very in-depth discussion, and there were some fascinating emails that came in. So I wasn't sure because it got so intense. But it seems like our listeners can handle it, which I'm very happy to hear. And in particular, there were one or two emails that I found fascinating. There was one gentleman who has been listening to the show and finally decided that he wanted to do something about some of the issues that he feels are coming up in his life. So I'm glad to hear. This is such a difficult conversation sometimes we have, you and I. It seems like, to me, it triggers people and their stuff, their issues. And you just don't want to leave the listeners thinking that, this is all difficult and there's no hope. But in fact, people feel hopeful when they get a chance to
I certainly hope so.
interact with this material. Great. Today we're going to look at another very interesting topic. It keeps coming up with men in particular.
That is anger.
Anger and rage.
And rage.
Why does it keep coming up, and why do people keep asking for it, for us to cover this topic?
Well, I think it's in the atmosphere. It's in our consciousness. We see it on the news. We see it in politics. Everyone's angry. And it's just getting worse. It's not getting better. So if we really ask questions about where does this anger and rage come from, it's really interesting because I think the answers are going to surprise us. What I have found to be the case is if you're angry and you have rage, you're suppressing it, because anger is a good emotion. It's not bad. It's not negative. Let me tell you why.
Anger is a good emotion.
It's a good emotion. Actually, all of our emotions are good.
Or not good or bad.
We should not judge our emotions because they need to be expressed. That's the purpose for them. It's the way we learn. So the reason I say anger is good is the only way we change is when we finally get angry enough, we say enough is enough. I need to do something differently. And we need that emotion in order to get to that point. Now, rage is a little different. Rage is a more intense, repressed form of anger, and that's not healthy. But the emotion itself of anger is good. It's normal. It's part of our learning process. It basically means we have awareness. We need to expand our perception of what the reality is. The reason we get angry typically is we have some expectations that
True.
just don't turn out the way we hoped. We feel betrayal. And when we're in the midst of that, it's hard to look from above. It's hard to have a bigger picture. But in reality, what's happening is we're here for a purpose. We're here to learn. We're here to learn how to love. And when we experience betrayal, it's not meant to punish us. It's meant to help us to take a bigger perspective of what's really going on symbolically, not literally, not personally. So again, these emotions are good for us. Betrayal is good for us. Everyone gets betrayed. No one doesn't get betrayed. And it will happen everywhere. It can happen in your work. You get demoted or you get fired.
Or looked over or passed.
Or passed over for a job. And you thought, well, maybe that was for me. But maybe you're not able to see everything about you. Maybe you have shadows that you're not aware of.
What does that mean? Talk about that.
We've talked about shadows in the past.
Yes.
A shadow is basically a part of your personality that's hidden from you. You're not aware of it. And we're all born with shadows. Again, no one is immune. But what I find very interesting in my work is I find that when we experience trauma, our shadows get bigger. And so it could be any trauma. It could be anything from a car accident to, getting demoted. They're the same type of impact to our emotional state. And when we go through trauma, a part of ourselves, a sub-personality, you might call it, actually goes into our shadow. It could be anything from trust, laughter, playfulness. You'll notice that some people that have a trauma, they don't laugh anymore. They can't make fun about themselves. They can't take it when somebody makes fun of them. That's a clear sign that they're still in that trauma of whatever happened. And it's not bad. It happens to us all. And there's ways to retrieve these subpersonalities from our shadow.
Fascinating. How do we then retrieve it? So I completely understand, excuse me, and I didn't realize that sometimes you can actually temporarily lose that connection with your authentic self when you have experienced something that feels traumatic, something that feels unexpected. You're almost in shock.
Right, you are.
You are in shock, and you are, you go through disbelief, negotiation, all of the whole, right, grief, all of that in order to try to regain that whatever equilibrium you thought you needed to have or existed before. And then you begin to see that the feelings that you're having and experiencing, they feel very heavy, that you cannot open up, you can't open your heart, you cannot be light.
Right.
You cannot love, all of that, laugh.
Yes.
And then from there, you go to realizations of, my goodness, was it real? Is this what I'm feeling? Is it real? Is it not? There is that re-examination of what exactly did I go through and how has it affected my perception of the world. But what is so fascinating is that you can be stuck in that process for a long time of rumination.
Long time.
Long time. And the thing that breaks that mold, that sort of jolts one back to consciousness, is joy, laughter, and love. As, finding something, instead of beating ourselves up, finding something about ourselves that we can connect with the deepest part of our brain that we can love. Maybe it's not the heart that can love, but the brain can.
Yeah, and I find that there's so many people that can help with this.
Yes.
This field of trauma work has really exploded. And there are so many capable, qualified people. And I work with trauma in my work, but there's so many qualified people that do this work. And it's fascinating, and it's so good. The work they do is so good. I'll give you an example. I'll give you my own real-life example of trauma. I was, 12 maybe, and went away to summer camp. And I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go. And I'm not a good swimmer. I'm an awful swimmer. And they make you swim. And I didn't want to swim. Well, when you really don't want to do something, part of you stays there. Your spirit, part of your spirit actually stays in the lake I was in. And I didn't know that. Part of me left me. When you hear about people, when they say they're not fully in their body, have you ever heard that expression?
Yes, I have.
And it's easy to tell because you're kind of spaced out. And it's hard for you to feel totally in your body. That's real common. It happens to us all. And it happens you don't really understand why it happens, but it happens to us, especially when we're children, when we don't want to do something and we're kind of forced to do it, especially if you have a strong will, like I did. So it can be something as simple as that. And if you work with someone who knows how to help you,
they can reintegrate.
We can retrieve and reintegrate. Yes. Exactly. That's just one
Interesting.
example of many traumas that I've experienced in my life.
Is it possible not to feel trauma?
You don't know it. When you have it, you don't know you have it.
I see.
It's hidden from you.
So, this is fascinating. So there is this process of rediscovery of certain parts of yourself. And what is so fascinating is that when you're able to break through that sort of solidification and the fear that you're stuck in, and things are not as they seemed, and there is this grieving of why isn't it what I thought it was going to be? Excuse me. And then realizing that it was probably never what you thought it was to begin with, which is fascinating. And then having the strength to be centered and to gather your energy so that you're not giving it away, so that you're maintaining it,
Right.
the integrity of it, so that you can then shift and
Right.
be able to move forward.
And express whatever the emotions are that you're feeling, and then move forward.
How do you express the emotions? You don't have to tell the person or the people or the situation, do you? Or how do you reconcile that? Can you do it personally, individually, privately?
Well, I think it depends. I think you need to feel the emotion. You don't necessarily have to express it, but you need to feel it fully.
How do you feel rage without being out of control?
It's just a process. It's like any other emotion. If we're suppressing, it can be anything. It could be resentment. It could be anger. It could be rage. It could be depression. It really doesn't matter what the emotion is. But there's really only one way, is to sit still and invite the emotion to come forward. And it's better if you have someone there who can hold safe space for you and not judge you. That would be the ideal scenario. But if you don't, you can do it without someone. But it takes practice. And the first time you do it, it's a little scary, but the scariness goes away. Because think about it, this is an emotion. This is not meant to be stuck. All it is energy.
It's just moving.
All it is energy. And we get confused. We think of ourselves as a body, but in reality, all we are is energy. That is the truth. And if we hold on to energy, we're really not being truthful about what we are. We are not a body. And if you notice for example, when I resist something, I'm thinking of myself as my body. And I'm saying, no, I don't want to feel that. That's kind of icky feeling, or it's negative, or I don't want to be judged. I hate being judged, right? Everybody hates being judged. And if I'm coming from my body, I'll resist that. But if I think of myself as energy, I can let that judgment just go right through me. And I don't get personally involved in it, because I know it's just their energy. It has nothing to do with me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm wondering if our listeners can sort of relate to this. So if you're feeling rage and anger at some situation that you're in, is not to hold it tightly in your body, just to release and allow it like a wind to blow through you.
I have a good exercise to go through. If you're feeling anger or rage, invite it to come in, and then ask yourself, what are you really angry at? Or who are you angry at? And try it, because whenever I've done it and whenever I've asked clients to do it, the answer is always the same. We're angry at ourselves.
Isn't that interesting? I was just thinking about that. That's exactly what it comes to. I am angry at myself for
whatever reason. And
whatever
usually
reason.
it's because we're judging ourselves for not being good enough.
Or not knowing enough, or
we
looking silly.
We feel shame, like, oh, we
Shame.
should have known this by now. How could I possibly be this whatever?
Or how we're perceived. Or,
Right. And so what we really need to do is learn how to love ourselves. We need to learn to be our mother and our father to ourselves.
I love that.
And practice that
Yes.
with compassion.
I want that to sink in. Practice that with compassion.
Compassion. No one else can really do that for us. In fact, It's a burden if we ask someone to do that for us. And no one wants that burden.
Fascinating. You know what is also interesting, John, is that oftentimes when I feel that I have overreacted and I go back and I check in with the person, oftentimes it wasn't even on the radar. They didn't even pick up that I may have overreacted. And it was just all me being so worried because I am aware of my internal landscape. They have no access to it. They can just see it by the way I emote and act. And I thought, that's interesting. Here I was really hot and bothered, and I said this particular thing, and it wasn't even registered. And yet then you get into that guilt and shame. And how do we check ourselves around that?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's self-judgment is what it is. So it's the same process. It's becoming aware. So what you just shared with us is you are now aware when you're judging yourself. That's step number one. So the natural reaction to catching yourself is to go in the blame mode or shame mode. And then that's where you need to learn, this is okay. Everyone does this. No one is immune. We are not alone. When we judge ourselves, we are not alone. Every single person does the same thing. So it's not like we have a fault, a fatal flaw or something. No one has a fatal flaw. We all go through this process. But when we first start to see it, it bothers us. The more we become aware of it, each time we become aware, it becomes less painful to watch. Eventually, once we've seen it enough, it starts to go away, and we don't do it anymore. Because we've learned by repetition, I don't think I really want to do that again. And it might take us 5, 10 times before we can finally get it. And that's that little anger that comes up, which is actually healthy.
Interesting. Well, let's take a short break. And we're going to do something unusual. We've never done this before. So I'll give you the phone number in case you have any questions for John during the break. Please give us a call. We'll take it off the air. And I'll ask John the question, and he can answer it for you if this is something that he feels comfortable that he can address. That number is 512-472-5667. Again, that's 512-472-5667. John Zeev, a life coach for men, is here today. You are listening to Idea Lounge on your community radio. This is KOOP Hornsby, Austin, 91.7 FM. Excuse me, I'm having allergies, I think, today. And we're also coming to you online at koop.org. I'm so happy that you're coming along for this journey. I hope that you are hearing something that is helping you process through whatever that might be coming up for you. Again, I just want to say as a disclaimer, this is just a conversation John and I have. He makes no claims to be able to offer you any medical advice. If there are acute things that you're dealing with, acute illness or issues, please seek appropriate care. This is only a recommendation, and he's a life coach, so he's going to only be able to speak to and recommend what he thinks might be able to help. So we do need to take a short break. Please stay with us.
Cinco de Mayo commemorates the brave response to foreign interests in Mexican politics that grew out of Benito Juárez's victory over the French in the 1862 Battle of Puebla. Although this victory did not win outright independence from foreign meddling, it is celebrated today as if it were Mexican Independence Day. Cinco de Mayo has become a major Hispanic cultural festivity in the U.S., Texas, and Austin, with music, dress, and food, even as this history is often overlooked. On Monday, May the 2nd, Reflections of Community Outreach will kick off KOOP's third annual Cinco de Mayo celebration event. Join our guests, historian Dan Arellano and activist Cynthia Perez, for a stimulating discussion, and continue to tune in all month for more special programming and music.
Thank you for staying with us. You are listening to Idea Lounge here on your community radio. During the break, we heard from Linda, who asked a question around self-judgment. Linda, thank you so much for calling. I know you're listening. What if what you did really hurt someone, John? So I know you got a chance to chat with Linda when she called in. That is her question.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Linda. Thanks for calling. So you were saying, Khotan, that if, it might not be on someone's radar if what you thought you did was bad, but what if it really hurt someone? So I would say the first thing is you need to forgive yourself. We are not perfect, and we are doing the best we can. All of us are doing the best we can. And then if you feel that it did hurt someone, I would apologize and ask them to forgive you. However, it's not as important that they do forgive you, because you cannot control anyone. What is important is that you forgive yourself.
Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. Let's start unpacking it, right?
Okay.
So the first thing is that you're saying forgive yourself.
Yes. Remember what I was saying before about we need to learn how to become our own fathers and mothers and compassionately love ourselves.
Okay, so what if someone hearing this thinks that's a cop-out? I hurt you, John, I hurt you, and I say, okay, well, I will forgive myself. That's what they might be hearing. That is not what we're saying, because there's an accountability measure here as well. I know that I did something that hurt you. I didn't know any better if it was not malicious. Even if it was malicious, I did not understand. I'm not aware enough to behave in a way that would not be in that way, right?
Right.
So I have to be aware and forgive myself for not being what? Perfect? For not what?
We're doing the best we can.
And what does that mean? We're doing the best we can?
That means that part of ourselves are hidden. We have shadows. We all have them. So we might not be aware when we're doing something that is going to hurt someone. We just might not be aware. So when I say we need to forgive ourselves, that doesn't mean we shouldn't forgive the person we did it to. We should. But what I was saying was you can't control how they react to that.
So I can say to you, I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to hurt you.
Right.
I'm going to, instead of collapsing into despair at my end and becoming paralyzed by what I have done.
Right.
And beating myself.
And holding it in.
And beating myself up for it is...
Just be honest.
Okay.
And humble.
But what if I need you to forgive me? What if there is a need for your approval of my apology?
Okay, well that's getting into a separate topic, which I'd love to talk about.
Okay.
It's the whole topic about needing others' approval.
So for me to feel that I need to heal, I need your forgiveness is actually not forgiveness, it's approval? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's not... We don't need anyone's approval. We might think we do, okay, but we don't need anyone's approval. If we think we do, and it's normal for us to do this. Again, we shouldn't beat ourselves up for this. I've lived most of my life seeking others' approval. And it's very normal for us, especially when we, move out of the house and we, are trying to find ourselves. We seek the approval that we got from our parents. And we seek that in others. It's extremely common. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it's never going to work out for us. No one can satisfy that need. So just like we were talking about before, if you're judging yourself, you cannot judge yourself for seeking approval. Just be aware of it and understand that it's a learning process. We need to learn that we cannot find approval. That's not going to be sustainable for us in others.
Sometimes we do. We run from person to person to person.
And that's okay.
Seeking their approval.
And there's nothing wrong with that. However,
until we become aware.
We need to become aware that that's a pattern that we can break by becoming aware of it.
Yes. Is it possible to grieve too much over something that we thought we did to someone to hurt them?
The grieving process just needs to take its own time. Everybody's unique, and you just need to feel whatever it is you feel. There's no right way. It's just allowing the feeling to come to you, and being okay, not feeling good.
Being
accepting
okay, not feeling good.
Yeah.
Being okay, having done something wrong or bad as we perceive it.
Yeah.
What if we've broken someone's trust?
It happens. It happens a lot.
So then we need to...
And again, we need to apologize. And
take the consequences, because the relationship may be broken.
Yeah,
after that.
and that's okay, because we all have to come to our own decision when we forgive others. Let's say there's a father and a son, and this is a pattern, by the way, that is in every father and son. Okay, the same with mothers and daughters. At some point in the life of a son, they are going to feel that their father didn't do something that they wanted, whether it be, saying I love you, or whether it being, saying I'm proud of you, son. There's going to be something that the son hangs on to and says, I feel anger towards you. It's going to happen. It's part of the growing up and the maturing process of a son. Now, the son can apologize. The son could say to the father, this is how I feel. But the father might not respond the way the son wants. And you cannot control anybody by what you say. And that's a major lesson we all need to learn, is it's not about controlling how somebody responds. It's about our own self-forgiveness.
Interesting. So we don't quite know what Linda's issue was when she called, but it sounded like something has happened. She knows that what she did really hurt someone, is the words that she used. So how do you come back from really hurting somebody? What is the process? You forgive yourself is one. But there is this other element, right? How do you stay detached from, because if I hurt you and the relationship is broken, I'm not only upset about what I did, I'm also upset about the relationship not working out.
Well, I would encourage Linda to apologize in a way that you're allowing her to know that you're sorry, that you are not saying that you're right, that I might have been saying that. I don't know what the exact issue was. But doing so, being honest and saying, I was wrong, or whatever the circumstances were, be honest and humble and say, I still might not be right about this, but I'm sharing to you my honest feelings, and I'm sincere. The intention is everything. And then you need to let go of control of what happens next.
That's very hard.
It is.
You're asking a lot.
But I'll tell you what, the thing that heals relationships is being honest and letting go of control. That's what heals, and it's almost magical. It's almost magical, like there's angels that come in to help you once you do those two things. Being honest and letting go of control of the outcome.
It's very powerful.
I hope that helps, Linda.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling. So let's shift, and then we'll give people a chance if there's anyone else who would like to call during the next break. What is it that we need to understand about our true reality that we don't quite get? You were talking earlier that we're all energy. We need to understand that. We have a spirit or some sort of spiritual reality that most of us know that it's there. Some of us have access to, and others either don't care, deny, or could live without. What is the process? Because that has its own, there are these forces at play in the world that they enact, and there's this interconnectivity that things act on each other, right? So if I am feeling certain emotions, if I can think about myself as energy, spirit, it's different than if I think of myself as self, body. Right. But the interconnectivity is that the body can get sick if the energy's stuck.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. That's how I got into this whole thing, is my body was reacting in a way I didn't like. Mm-hmm. It was becoming very stiff and inflexible.
Yes.
So I started to seek, why is this so? And eventually I started to learn more and more about energy. And I started to study energy medicine. And we really are energy. That's what we are. Deep down, we have a unique frequency. All of us have a unique frequency. And it's only if we accept what that frequency is, in other words, we're authentic and honest about who we are, then the universe or our friends or loved ones, they don't see what our unique frequency is. And I really believe that just like there are flowers and bees and everything is a very delicate ecosystem that works together to balance everything. Right. The same is true with our vibrations, our frequencies. So each of us has a unique fingerprint, mm-hmm. which is a vibration. And for the world to be one, we each need to have that vibration coming out of us.
Yes.
When we put a wall around ourselves because we're afraid of rejection or whatever the reasons are, which are valid, but when we do that, we stop that frequency from being broadcast to the world. And I really believe our number one value is just being in our energy the way we were intended to, being authentic about who we are. And our energy can heal others just by being who we are without saying anything.
I totally agree. Yes, so to stay authentic and centered, and it's amazing that fear, when it comes in, it's really powerful. I see the phone is ringing. We can't get to that right now. I hope that you can hear us. We do need to take a short break in a minute or so, and we will be happy to answer your question. In fact, why don't we just take a short break, if that's okay, John? Mm-hmm. I see the phone is ringing. So 512-472-5667, 512-472-5667.
Cinco de Mayo commemorates the brave response to foreign interests in Mexican politics that grew out of Benito Juárez's victory over the French in the 1862 Battle of Puebla. Although this victory did not win outright independence from foreign meddling, it is celebrated today as if it were Mexican Independence Day. Cinco de Mayo has become a major Hispanic cultural festivity in the U.S., Texas, and Austin, with music, dress, and food, even as this history is often overlooked. On Monday, May the 2nd, Reflections of Community Outreach will kick off COOP's third annual Cinco de Mayo celebration event. Join our guests, historian Dan Arellano and activist Cynthia Perez, for a stimulating discussion, and continue to tune in all month for more special programming and music.
VSA Texas is a nonprofit organization that is an expert resource on inclusive art. We create and maintain an accessible and open community where everyone can participate. Our goal is to provide support and training to the public, enhance personal growth, and offer Texans access to the creative works of people with diverse abilities. To learn more about our programs and services, visit our website, www.vsatx.org.
Thank you for staying with us. We had someone on the phone, but they sort of changed their mind to ask a question. That's all right. We can totally understand that. But thank you so much for calling in anyway. John, let's talk about, and let's give everyone a chance to practice something. Let's talk about our energy, where it comes from. How do we meditate in order to balance and stabilize our energy?
Okay. Yeah, meditation is the best thing we can do to start to feel our energy. So, there's a lot of misconceptions and myths about meditation. I'd like to talk about that because I think a lot of people have tried meditating and they give up. They don't like it, or they fall asleep. Okay? So I'd like to just talk about what I've learned about meditation.
Okay.
Meditation is not something that you need to force yourself to do. It is not what you might think it is. Those that meditate already know this, but if you're not a frequent meditator, at least in my case, what I used to think is, well, I need to be quiet and I need to be still and my mind wanders and God, I must be doing something wrong and how long is this going to take? And, you have all these thoughts. I didn't really get it until I read an article about a woman who went to every doctor in the world, it seemed like, to try to fix some problem with her energy level. And no one could help her. And she started to meditate. Just by meditating, her energy started to slowly come back. And it was a fabulous article. And what I learned from that is it's just getting in touch with your energy, and your energy kind of has its own intelligence. And so here's what you do. You close your eyes and you focus on your breath. And that's pretty much all you do. So what happens is you start to think of things. And that's absolutely perfect. You want that to happen. Don't feel bad about that, because what meditation is, it's an exercise in discipline to focus back to your breath.
Bring the attention back to your breath.
So all you're doing is training yourself in how to focus.
Yeah.
Okay? So every time you get distracted, you should say, aha, this is good. It's giving me another opportunity to refocus. Instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh, I'm terrible at meditating, you congratulate yourself because you are actually starting to get the point. The point is to bring your focus back to your breath.
Okay, we're going to try that right now. So please do not attempt this if you're driving.
Right.
I know some of you are in the car. This is just if you're somewhere where you can sit comfortably, put your feet on the ground, lay on the ground, somewhere comfortable, not in a car or vehicle driving anywhere. You may want to try this. So give them the instructions. I'm going to play some music. And if during that time, if you wanted to call in, the number is 512-472-5667.
Okay, so close your eyes and start breathing into your heart and focus on your breath. Focus on your breathing. You can focus your eyes in between your eyebrows, called the third eye, and try to feel your energy right below your belly button. Some of you will be able to see a color. Just pay attention to your breath. You can feel how your skin feels, how your clothes feel on your skin. Start to notice things that you never noticed before. If you have a thought, just bring it back to your breath. You should be able to start to feel parts of your body that want to talk to you. You can ask, what do you want to tell me? If you feel an emotion, let it come. We have your back. And right before we stop, I want you to think of your loved ones. Imagine them, feel their love, feel the love come into your heart, and allow that love to penetrate your entire being. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
And take a deep breath. Oh, thank you so much.
So I would recommend to really get in tune with your energy, to spend maybe 10 minutes a day in the beginning, and you could work yourself up to, 15, 20 minutes a day. And if you fall asleep, that's okay. That's normal. Don't be discouraged. You just keep at it. And again, it's a discipline of focusing your mind.
So in the few minutes that we have left, what would you like everyone to think about, practice, keep in their mind this week?
I would recommend that we remind ourselves that there's so much we don't know. And whenever we think we know, we don't. Because what's going on with you is completely different than what's going on with someone else. And we might think we know why someone reacted the way that we do, but we don't really know, and we'll never know. So we need to always come back to the stories we tell ourselves. And I'd much rather tell a story that's uplifting and energetic and positive and loving than a story that's negative and depressing. We have that choice of what stories we hold on to, what stories we tell ourselves. And we really need to become our own father and mother and compassionately love ourselves.
Wonderful, John. So if anyone is interested in contacting you or getting more information about what you do, is there a website? Or
Yes, it's www.jonzieve and .com.
.com.
Yeah.
johnzieve.com.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So happy that you could be here. This is so great. And John and I were talking a little bit before the show, and we're talking about the show. Idea Lounge has been on the air almost 10 years this August. And it's just been a labor of love for me. And I'm so excited that I have been able to bring this show to you, and we've been able to interact with each other, and that you've been so supportive and loving about the show. So thank you so much. I am going to take a sabbatical. This is the last month of the show. Our last show is going to be the last Thursday in May. And starting in June, there will be another show that will take this space. It's going to be called Issues for Your Tissues, which has to do, I believe, with women and their health. And I would love to hear from you how we can reimagine this show and what are the new possibilities. I'm actually quite excited.
Yes.
I think that it'd be very interesting to see what we can do with the show, whether it will come back to this hour or whether it will move around on the schedule. Would it live after hours, or who knows in what format? I would love for you to give your feedback and let me know what exactly worked for you with Idea Lounge. What did you like? What did you love? What happened when you listened to the show? Was there anything that was of value for you? And what didn't work? What didn't you like? If you feel that this is a process you would like to be part of as we reimagine what the possibilities of the show could be, please reach out. My email, you can certainly email through KOOP, info@koop.org. And I am so grateful that you have allowed me to be of service to you for these wonderful years that we've been here together. And I look forward to seeing what's next.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for listening tonight. I hope that you have heard something that would help you think of your life and reimagine your life in a new way. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you again next week.